welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah Lipkowitz. I'm a real estate agent based in Montgomery County, Maryland. I specialize in homes and farms in Maryland and Virginia. And today I'm going to get into some things that you need to keep in mind when you are looking for a farmette. I've made a number of observations over the years working with farm buyers, and now in the last couple months looking for my own farmette. Some of these observations have really been driven home for me. I think it's very, very important at the outset to set expectations and set your goals out, because we typically prepare our farm buyers for a 3 to 6 month process. And in a market like this one where inventory is very low, it can take even longer. So it becomes very easy to let things get away from you a bit and to stray from your initial goals. And if your goals evolve over time in seeing properties, that's one thing, but I think it's very easy to feel like you're never going to find the right thing, and so you jump on one that isn't really the right fit and isn't really what you set out to find. And just in the hopes of helping you avoid doing that, I want to go over a couple of the things that I think are really important to discuss on the front end of looking for a farmette. Now, I know I just said that you need to set goals and stick to those goals, but sometimes it pays to get a little creative. Some of my farm buyers are looking for something really specific, or they need to be in a particular area for work, and finding a turnkey farmette just isn't feasible on their timeline. And so we end up looking at, for instance, properties that have acreage. So the house meets their needs, the location works, the acreage works, and then they've already talked to some contractors, so they have a rough idea of what the fencing and the barn might cost, and they go ahead and put that up when they move in. And sometimes, what you need in terms of a farmette is just going to be very, very specific, and you're not going to find that. Sometimes it just pays to get a little creative to find the perfect thing, so you're not feeling like you're stuck on a property that ultimately isn't what you wanted or doesn't work. It is absolutely critical that you check zoning laws before you write an offer on a property. In Maryland, zoning laws are by the county. Each county has its own zoning ordinance, and just because the current owner has animals on the property, it does not mean that they are doing so legally, and it does not mean that you will be grandfathered in if they have a special exception. New owners have to reapply for their own special exception, and you may or may not be granted the rights to do what you want to do. So it's very, very important that you check zoning. You do not trust the listing or the seller to tell you what is allowed and what is not allowed on the property. You always want to check with the county. This leads me to my next point, which is that you absolutely must check for any conservation easements before you write an offer on a property. Easements are something that a lot of people often forget about, but they can be just as, if not more prohibitive than a zoning law, because there's really no getting around easements. For the most part, if there is an easement on the property, it goes with the deed, and that's the end of that. So one of the most common easements that farm buyers run up against is they find a property that's maybe partially wooded, but if they were to clear an acre or two, it would be perfect. Well, if there's a forest conservation easement on that property, then you can't cut down those trees, and you can't have grazing animals anywhere near those trees because they don't want new growth disrupted. So it's very important to know on the front end if there are any easements before you write that offer. So here's a bit of a pro tip. Most counties have their zoning ordinance, a zoning map, and conservation easement map available online. So if you are trying to figure out if a particular property has, for example, a forest conservation easement, you can go to that county's conservation easement map, and sometimes if it's an interactive map, those are really nice. You can go ahead and plug in the property address, and it'll bring it up for you and tell you exactly what the zoning is, if there are conservation easements on the property, and then you can go ahead and refer to the zoning ordinance to figure out what is and is not permissible. But if you have any questions at all, it's always a good idea to talk to your agent and talk to the county. And I usually like to get an answer from the county in writing as well. When I have a new client call with a farm buyer, one of my first questions is usually, how many animals do you have? Or for an equestrian, how many horses do you have? And the answer usually goes something like this. Well, right now I have 2 horses. And it's really important to keep expansion in mind when you buy a property. And it's totally fine if you don't ever plan on having 10 horses. You don't need a property that would support that. But if you have 2 horses right now, you may consider buying something that could support 3 or 4, because a lot of my farm buyers almost immediately go out and buy more animals or adopt more animals. And it's nice to have options too in terms of how you're managing them. So if you are living on a property that could manage 3 to 4 horses, living inside part of the time and outside part of the time, if you've only got 2 horses, then you have the option to maybe keep them out full time. And for me, I'm looking for something along those lines because I want to be able to have options in terms of how I'm managing my horses. Sometimes when you're walking through a farm, it is really easy to get excited about the trail access and the barn and the pastures and totally forget about the things that you need to help support your animals, like cell service and internet. And I have clients who won't even go look at a property unless high-speed internet is available in the area. And I know there's legislation in place that is supposed to help a lot of rural communities get access to high-speed internet, but I do think that's a ways away. So while over the last year I've seen a lot of my farm buyers and sellers working from home with satellite and hotspots for internet, if that's not going to work for you, you need to know that ahead of time. So check your bars when you walk through a house and find out from the seller what internet is available, because if you're working from home to support those animals, you need to have internet. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this helpful and that you'll remember to like and subscribe. And again, my name is Sarah Lipkowitz. I'm a real estate agent based in Montgomery County, Maryland. I specialize in both homes and farms in Maryland and Virginia.